This is Rack Studios. Look, Rack. And this is where we made our album, which is called Showbiz, by the way. Yeah. There's three different studios here. This is where The Cure were when we made our album, and Pavement were down there. And this is where we made our album. So it's nice, there's lots of bands all together, and like they meet up and have dinner and stuff. It's a very social place. And yeah.
So how much time did you spend here?
We're here for about 4 weeks altogether. We did the other half of the album down in Cornwall, where we're from. So this is like, the studio down there is very seclusive, like very, you know, hidden from everything, whereas this is much more open. This studio, John Leckie chose this place because of this desk, which is like a really old thing, which you don't really find anywhere anymore. It's like an old vintage desk, and it has a certain sound to it. And as you can see, like, everything here is pretty old. There's nothing like very modern here. There's no computers and things like that, so you know, it's all down to the bands to create the atmosphere.
She had something to confess to, but you don't have the time, so look the other way. You will wait until it's over to reveal what you'd never shown her. Too little, much too late.
I originally started at Abbey Road Studios as an engineer, and this was back in the early 70s, and so I engineered all sorts of different sessions for different producers. I worked with Mickey Most a lot. I worked with Phil Spector, with George Harrison and John Lennon. I worked with Pink Floyd and lots of groups around at that time.
He came to see us play, and he liked us and everything, and we sort of became good friends with him. And he was with us when we went to America to like look, when we were first looking for these record deals. He was with us, and we decided that if we ever got enough money, we'd do the album together in like here and in Cornwall. And luckily we did. So we got to know him about maybe 5 months before we actually made it.
Of course, yeah. Do you want a cup of tea?
I'd love a cup of tea.
Or a beer? We've got a beer, a cup of tea. Anything.
Do you want to...
Plug it in. A fag. Oh, thanks. Cheers.
We'd sort of roll in at about 3 or 4 and just do nothing, just sit around and eat and talk about what we're going to do later. And then, like, as it got darker or whatever, and into the night, that's usually like the time when ideas are at their best anyway. And so it's usually very late at night, working on till late. And then when we'd finish, John Leckie would always, he'd always bring in some of these old records of stuff I'd never heard before. It was actually John Leckie who told me about Tom Waits and stuff. And he'd like play me these like Tom Waits records, and I was really getting into it. Like late at night when we'd finish, he'd just like turn all the lights off and just listen to like weird stuff.
I grew up here all of my life.
This is the studio. These panels here we sort of made into like little rooms, like with the vocals, and there was a big thing we drew, a big curtain we had here to make it seem like more close and stuff, and we'd have like certain lighting and stuff like that. And yeah, here we go.
So the piano, was that a place where you spent a lot of time?
Yeah, piano is really good for like working out arrangements, and I replaced a lot of the guitars with that piano there, like the songs Sunburn, Cave, all those, any stuff, piano stuff you hear on the album is done on that piano there.
The thing with Muse is that they play their instruments very well, but they don't have much studio experience. So I was surprised actually at how good they were in the studio, really, from trying different things, being open to different ideas.
So when we were doing things, he'd say like, "Oh, that sounds like what you're trying to do is the ending of this song by David Bowie in some album or something," and it's like, and he sort of, I've never even heard that, I've never even heard that record in my life, but he sort of he sort of knows the sort of sound effect that I'm looking for.
It was quite funny because I kept referring to Falling Down as the blues song. And, you know, oh, you know, the blues song, let's rehearse the blues song. And one day Matthew came up to me and said, why do you call that the blues song? What is blues? I'm going, Matthew, it's blues because of the way you sing that note and the guitar chord. It becomes a blues song, you know. Oh, I didn't hear about that. I better check this out. I better check some blues out.
When we first formed, we called ourselves Muse, but we entered this competition, which is a like a battle of the bands competition, like a competition of bands, local bands playing with each other. And we knew that we'd probably lose because Muse had just started, and the songs we were writing were quite serious and stuff like that. So we invented this other band, Rocket Baby Dolls, which was like very glam, you know, and like we wore lots of makeup and sort of the music we played was much more punk and aggressive, and we actually won the competition. But that was actually the first gig we ever did as Muse, but we called it Rocket Baby Dolls. And I think as the band's gone along, we've always had this sort of, you know, double sort of persona hidden inside.
Come waste your millions here. Secretly she sneers, just like an angel blows, a guilty conscience grows.
I think what Matt got off in the studio is that sometimes in the studio you can trash things, like you can use a cheap old microphone to record, or you know, you can put the microphone on the floor under the table. And Matt said, oh, you know, you can't do things like that, you know. And I said, well, of course you can. This is what you do, you know. And he's meant to be the young rebel, you know, and I'm saying, no, let's put the microphone, you know, up here or something and see what it sounds like. So I think he got off on some of those crazy ideas and things.
She burns like the sun, but I can't look away. And she'll burn our horizons, make no mistake.
I think the most important thing that I learned from John was the importance of you know, being of like concentrating on getting a good performance, because I mean that sounds simple, but a lot of bands nowadays, they record something and then if they get it wrong, or if the drummer doesn't play very well, or the bass player or whatever, you can sort of fix it with like, because nowadays you get these computer editing systems, and they're very complicated and they're very modern, and you go into them and you can like fix little tiny things, like little discrepancies, and little, you know, mistakes on the bass drum. You can like fix them. I think what John taught me was that, you know, those discrepancies are the things that make it human. You know, those are the things that make it what it is.